There's an old saying, proper planning and preparation prevents poor performance. So do your research, proper planning and preparation, number one. Two, it's going to be harder than you initially thought. Plan to have more resources than you think that you need. What often happens is we are often undercapitalized, which then makes your ability to grow difficult. Build your network, build your social capital. Your social capital for me is understanding that it gives you access to people, resources, or opportunities that if you did not have that social capital, you would not have access to those people or individuals. So if by knowing your network or growing your network, I should say, there might be individuals who can invite or open up doors for you that you wouldn't ordinarily get access to.
Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom, Your Business Journey, the podcast where we share valuable insights, resources, and motivation to fuel your entrepreneurial spirit. Let's build a supportive community together. Don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to podcasts and be part of this journey. Let's pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. You've built a name for yourself through hard work and dedication, but does managing the business side feel like a distraction from your true passion? Are you dealing with unmanaged finances? CME Accounting LLC is here to help. We specialize in organizing your financial records, allowing you to focus on what you do best. With organized books, you'll have more time for what inspires you. Whether that's expanding your influence, building relationships, or simply enjoying life. Don't let unmanaged finances hold you back. Reach out to CME Accounting LLC today and let us help you thrive. Visit our website www.cmeaccountingllc.com or email us at admin@cmeaccountingllc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation.
Welcome to Begin, Build, Blossom, Your Business Journey, a space for real inspiration, insight, and conversations around entrepreneurial and creative journeys. I'm Angela Sendenis, your host for today's episode. Today on Begin, Build, Blossom, I'm joined by a founder, a CEO, author, strategist, speaker, and host, Dr. Carlton Brown. Dr. Brown is an award-winning thought leader in diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly focused on the persistent and often paradoxical ways that organizations fail on race. He has more than 2.5 decades of experience in business, leadership, and strategy, having held senior leadership roles in large FTSE 100 companies and scaling his own enterprises. Dr. Brown is the CEO of Aspire Consultancy, a business advisory firm working with the public and private sector, SMEs. And he's also the founder of Marshall & Brown, a premium Caribbean food and drinks brand, as well as the host of the UK Black Business Entrepreneur Conference. Listeners, we are in for a very insightful conversation. After all, Dr. Brown has a wide range of experience. So join me in welcoming him to the Begin, Build, Blossom family. Welcome, Dr. Brown.
Angela, what a wonderful welcome. So thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to be here and to have this lovely, wonderful conversation with you. So thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. So we're looking forward to all the insights, and especially as we speak about race and diversity and equity and about Black people being in business, whether it be in the UK or around the world.
It is a global phenomenon, and entrepreneurship is one of the aspects of as African Caribbean diaspora. I almost feel it's within our DNA. It's something that we do. We're multifaceted, very creative individuals, and
Yes.
entrepreneurship is what we do. I can remember being in Jamaica, and you don't have anything, and I've seen entrepreneurs. We're going to go and find some peanuts, and we're going to get some guineps, or we're going to sell on the roadsides. And I was in Accra, and it's in Accra in Ghana, and it's the same. We have this innovation and creativity to make things happen, right? They say necessity is the mother of all invention.
That's right. So it's an innate ability that we've
Yes,
developed.
indeed. So we are creative by definition, and of course, necessity drives us to do things that are necessary to survive. So, and entrepreneurship is one of those vehicles. So I'm pleased to have a discussion with you. I think it will be really interesting and insightful. But yeah, entrepreneurship is a key thing. But at the same time, as you said, one of the challenges, that we will still experience are challenges with access to finance and opportunities within that. So I know we'll explore that a little bit later. But yeah, I'm excited to be here, and as I said, thank you for hosting and the great work that you're doing.
Okay, great, great. So thanks for that. Now, before we get into the serious business, we want to break the ice a bit. We want to learn a bit about Dr. Brown. We always ask every guest, and you will be no different. What is one word you would use to describe yourself now and one word as a child?
It's interesting question. As a child, my mum said I was very talkative, and I suppose as an adult, my wife says to me, "You're very talkative." so, so
Much hasn't changed.
I've been consistent, right? But I would certainly say now, I think I was always driven, even as a child, as an individual, to try and achieve whatever that was, whether that's on the sports field, playing cricket, wanting to win, or playing football. And I think the same applies to me now. Still, I'm still very driven and purpose led. So yeah, so I think that's probably how I would describe myself. Is yes, very driven, very purpose driven, mission driven, and I think that the possibilities of what's possible. I don't see, despite any challenges in the world, I think whatever we want to do, we can. And I'm not saying it's easy because that sounds too glib, right? But I think the possibility of being able to do stuff is there. It's real, but you have to be intentional about that and take the actions that are necessary to make things happen, for sure.
That's right. That's right. So there is a little bit of linkage. I suppose in some ways you've been consistent in both parts, in the part of how your mother would describe you, and in the part of how you would describe yourself, because talkative and driven.
Yeah, I suppose so. That transition from a child to a young adult to a mature person now, I think you're kind of thinking not that your values. I think are what are who make you, your beliefs and your values, who you are, but how you operate in the world and be. We talk about this word consistency, and I think consistency speaks to your values. Do you care about people? Are you compassionate? Are you genuine? Are you authentic? Or my mum used to say you're too sometime-ish, which is you're what.
I've been described that way as well. So we have something in common.
So sometimes, you could be a particular way and others but hopefully that I feel for myself, am I really consistent of who I am as a person? My values are reflected in how I operate. Yeah, I'd like to think that I'm consistent in that way. And my values reflect who I am as a person.
That's insightful and good to hear that perspective. So as we move along, reading is an important part. It's a place that we connect as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about later on. Is there a book that you would recommend, or perhaps a movie you would recommend to individuals that they should read, a must read?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Reading is something I enjoy doing, and there's so many different types of books. Many years ago, I read a book by David Schwartz, The Magic of Thinking Big. It's Possible by Les Brown, Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers or Tipping Point, Matthew Said and Bounce, The Alchemist, Eckhart Tolle, Channing Austin Brown. There are so many great books. Even Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, was a very old book, but so many great books. So what book would I choose? Andrew,
There's no choice. There are far too many.
there's a tall order, Atomic Habits. There are so many. But if I not that I want to choose one, but there's one who I still revert to, and it's something I read when I was young. I've read, I love the philosophies of Marcus Garvey as an example, of Malcolm X. But I also like the David Schwartz, The Magic of Thinking Big. So from a young age, I think the things that influenced me was like my mother, who's, she was the person who would, out of necessity, do the coach trips to the seaside, or used to be the partner banker, and she would hold dances and domino tournaments. She was that person, and she would think that she could make things happen. And so when I read The Magic of Thinking Big, it was it always sat with me that actually you can think bigger than what sometimes other people have the expectations for you. So that book really resonated with me, The Magic of Thinking Big. So I'm probably going to give you that. That's my final answer, Angela.
So we'll lock it in.
We're locking it in. The magic of thinking big. Yeah. I think there's something in that.
Interestingly, I was in a network marketing group, and that was one of the books that was part of our training program, The Magic of Thinking Big. So it's a book I think I need to read again. I've heard it from a couple of our guests as well. So that's good. So we'll put that in the show notes, listeners. So two other things so we can get through rapid fire. If there is a place in the world that you'd like to visit right now, where would that be? If there's one place you could visit, where would that be?
I would say Jamaica. Well, that's where my family are from, my heritage is from. But equally so, it's a beautiful country. And of course, I'd love to go back and see what's gone on since the hurricane, and see what is happening there from that perspective. But also, to sit down and have a local food and a local rum is also would be very nice to enjoy and see family. So that would be very nice to go and see some family and friends. So that's the reason why I'd want to go and visit Jamaica.
Okay, so as we close out this section, thanks for sharing that bit about, the family connection and the heritage, where it's always good to be home and some real Caribbean sunshine too as well.
For sure, for sure.
Okay, so when we grow up as children, there are always funny things that happen to us or happens around us that may, from time to time, as we become an adult, bring a smile to our face. Is there any that you could recall at this moment that always brings any childhood memory that brings a smile to your face?
I don't know if you know the term. We used to call it blues dances, right? So back in the 60s, 70s, when my mother first came to this country in 62, the nightclubs weren't always open or accessible, or the music wasn't necessarily right. So what they used to do is host their own dances, illegal shebeens. so, so people used to come and pay a few pounds to come into the house, and you'd have a sound system in your house, and they would serve beers and rum, and they would cook rice and pea and curry goats and chicken and sell that. So people used to, so they were called blues dances. So as a youngster, I'm upstairs in the bedroom, and this will be taking place in the front room and the back room, right? So you can hear music. So very occasionally, my mum would go and call me and say, "Come and dance," and she would give me a pound or some money to show them that I could dance. so, so I used to come down and do my little jiggle, get my pound, and go back upstairs to my room. So that was a fun memory. I say fun, but it was something I remember dearly. That mum used to say, "Come and show them how you can dance." She tried to show me off to her friends
So
that
a
I
bit of
could.
inclusion there,
A
yes.
bit of inclusion, indeed. So yeah, so that was, I think that was an interesting time, and I always remember. I always think of, I go back to mom. There was a thing that when people from the Caribbean came to the UK, they would live in certain areas as groups of people, and often they would live in similar houses because they had to rent rooms at the beginning, and so there'd be multi-occupancy properties that they would all live together and stuff like that. But they would never travel out of their locality. So mum was to be the person that would organize to get a coach and do coach trips. And people would pay to go on a coach. They'd go and visit to Blackpool or Barry Island in Wales or whatever it would be. And I always remember she used to get up the night before. She'd be cooking chicken, baking cakes, black cake with rum and rice and peas. And then she'd put containers and cook making sandwiches. And then so people would come on the coach trips. Olive, Olive, what you have? And she would then make sure that she knew the market, that people would take some stuff, but then she would bring stuff and she would sell it. So she maximized the time on that coach trip. So people say, "Oh, Olive, you got cake?" And she'd get, she'd give cake. She'd give some out naturally, just as a friendship thing. But other times she'd be selling on. So that was to be interesting to see my mum, how she would operate. That was always enjoyable to see how she navigated stuff. She always carried a little black book. Oh, I gave Angela 2 tickets. Angela only £10, right? So there was no laptops, but she
Very
knew
meticulous.
what. Listen,
Hmm.
mum, if you borrowed £10 from mum, she would call you in 2 years. You said, but you still owe me £10. She would keep her black book for tickets, so she knew what she sold, who she sold it to, and yeah, she was very good. So that was a very fond memory for me, for sure.
Wow, well, it's really good that you were able to share that memory, and we appreciate you sharing it. So we both had a good laugh, and We expect that some of our listeners will also have similar type of memories, whether they're from the Caribbean or from Africa or wherever the situation may be. And talking about entrepreneurship, because there was a little bit of entrepreneurship in what your mom was doing, we can now get into the conversation a little bit more. So when we talk about business, we talk about entrepreneurship. When did you discover for the first time that you want to get into business? Did you start off from university or school having a business, or how did the whole thoughts come about? Because now you have three enterprises of sorts and other partnerships.
I didn't leave school. I went in as a trainee manager into a retail environment when I first left school. But even before that, it was interesting. There used to be a festival, a rock pop festival on these grounds many years ago, and every year they used to ask people as youngsters to come during the summer months to come, and they would pay you to come and clean up the litter. And back then there used to be a thing called Corona bottles, and they used to have a cap, and it said either 10p. If you had the bottles and you returned the bottles, you'd get 10p. So for returning and they would recycle the bottles, you take it back to the newsagents. He would give you the 10p's, and if you got five, you get 50p. If you had 10, it'd be a pound. So with a group of us who used to go to the local community centre where we used to live, there were some younger boys who were 1 or 2 years younger than me. So what I would do, I would organise them to come together and say, right, we're going to go to this festival and we're going to find the Corona bottles. so, so this is, we'd find these Corona bottles, and I say, right, if you collect X amount of Corona bottles, whatever you collect, I'll give you 50%. And so I would collect whatever I was collecting. So I would get all these bottles, take them down in bags, and take them. So I would then distribute their share, what they were entitled to. So I was always thinking about where were the opportunities. So that was the ones with the Corona bottles. But it wasn't something I thought about. But that was probably the earliest thought of how do you find opportunities? Because I think that's what entrepreneurs do, right? They look at something, they see, well, what's a gap in the market? Where's an opportunity to do something? What can I do better? Or what can I create? So entrepreneurship for me, it's a mindset. It's a belief that you can do something, you can come up with an idea, a concept, and deliver upon that and maximize that for profit in some shape or form. So, but as I said, my early career, I went into retail, but it wasn't until many years later when I was in the corporate world and I understood a lot more about business, commercial aspects of the business, what does marketing look like? What's profit and bottom line look like? What's margin look like? How do you grow a business incrementally? And having those skill sets and learning to deliver that for a corporate, right? But it's when what part of my career, I was now doing 50,000 miles a year. And I said, you know what, I've had enough of this now. I need to do something for myself. And I said, well, I'm going to go into consultancy and I'm going to go back and study. And that's when I did a degree in master's degree in leadership. And then I went and did an MBA. I said, well, and now I feel that I'm more equipped to do it for myself, right? I went and started to consult. And that's when I started the journey. And my first client was my old company, and then you realize, okay, this can work. This is something and you're selling your services that you can help organizations deliver on strategy, on leadership, and so you're selling your academic insights, your intellect. You're selling a service that can help organizations do whatever they need to do in terms of strategy, growth, or whatever. So that was something I've now been doing for over 20 years and continue to do that. But then it was interesting. I took a hiatus for a period after about 3 years of doing that, where I worked in the corporate world. I worked for a company called Rent-A-Kill Initial, which was a support services business. And the old finance director and myself, he called me up and said, Carlton, you remember we spoke many years ago that we should start a washroom business, right? Which was sanitary bins, hand dryers, air fresheners, nappy units. I said, yes, because that was the sector we were in, right? And he said, yeah. He said, do you still fancy doing it? I said, well, I'm consulting at the moment. He said, but there's a big opportunity. We can, start something and give it a few years. We can sell it and we can still go back to what we're doing. So I thought about this. So here's the rub. My wife had already started a wedding shop. She had started a wedding shop and we had invested in it. And then we had 2 wedding shops. And my wife was running that. She had managers in place. So she was really the catalyst for starting businesses. So we had these 2 businesses. But on one of the shops, we had 3 floors. When my business partner called me, he said, okay, where would we operate from? I said, I've got the solution. We'll operate it from the 3rd floor of my wedding shop. So here we are. We have a wedding shop, my wife and I. We have a 3rd floor. We kit out the 3rd floor, put partitions up, da 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 da. We employ a sales guy to go out into the market. We employ a driver to go and change the sanitary bins and this, that, and the other. And I'm going out selling, knocking on doors with another salesperson to try and find contracts. We started from the 3rd floor of the wedding shop, and for about 2 years, until we grew the business well enough. We then moved out to find a warehouse, storage, office blocks, and then we eventually expanded to having 10 people employed for the business. We grew the business, and after 7 years, we grew it to a significant number, and then we sold the business. But it wasn't easy, I can tell you it wasn't easy, because at the latter part of that journey of our washroom business, I then decided to go back and do a PhD. So I'm studying, and we're still having a business. So for about 4 years, I didn't have a life. I just literally worked and studied, and but it was interesting. But so that was my first furore into entrepreneurship, was the consultancy piece, which I still do. And then we had a washroom business which we started, and then we managed to sell that, which was great. And then when my mother-in-law got unwell, my wife spent some time with her mum and stuff. So we ended up selling the businesses of the wedding shops eventually over time. So that's what we did. So we moved out of retail. I was in washrooms, and I continued to do
in the weddings.
Oh yeah, and then of course, when I think about, I talk about heritage a lot because I think that's important, and accept who you are, and valuing who you are as a person. And my mum, as I said, she was a baker. She was a cook. She loved. There's not a Caribbean person who at Christmas time doesn't cook a black cake, a rum cake of some description. But Mum used to think she cooked the best rum cakes. Of course, she should make the best rum cakes. And forget the Great British Bake Off. Have the Great Caribbean Bake Off for cakes.
Yes, that's like, there's an idea that we should all adopt.
Right? What? Listen, tasting a good rum cake, I could be, one of the best rum cakes I've ever tasted was in Antigua. Oh, I don't know who this lady was, but she could bake a cake.
She did it well, yes.
So over the years, I've thought about businesses and could we do something that reflects our heritage, but in a contemporary way? So over the last couple of years, we've developed a brand called Marshall and Brown and the Jerk House. So the Marshall and Brown pays tribute and homage to our Caribbean heritage, and we do a brand of rum cakes. And we also have a Jerk House brand of sauces and condiments. So we have 9 sauces. So you can have a Caribbean hot mustard to a red pepper sauce to a red yellow pepper sauce to a jerk sauce to a jerk seasoning. We also have introduced innovation. We've introduced a jerk ketchup, believe it or not. So ketchup, which is sweet, but you have the same seasoning. So you have pimento, thyme, garlic, ginger, Scotch bonnet infused into a ketchup. So you have the sweetness of a ketchup. At the same time, you have the heat and the spice of a jerk, which is innovation. But we also do the same with the mayonnaise. And believe it or not, we're in Selfridges as an example, but we sell to a lot of independents. And I can tell you, as my mum used to say, they love it gone to bed. She would say
it's going off like hotcakes, as you say.
but it appeals to a wider community of people, which is important because people travel to the Caribbean all the time, right? St. Lucia, they go to St. Lucia Jazz. They love the jazz, they love the food, right? And they love the beaches, the pitons, the Carib beer. They love it all. So, and when they come back, why not give people the opportunity to experience the Caribbean in a contemporary way? So we do jams. We do 6 flavors of jams, but they're all Scotch bonnet led. So we have a tropical jam as an example, which is pineapple, papaya, and mango with Scotch bonnet.
Mango with Scotch bonnet. I need to try that one.
So I'll have to send you a jar, Angela. We'll have to send you a jar to try.
Yeah, you need to send me a pack so I can sample your products.
And then, as long as you report on it, Angela, to say how it tastes, you have to give a feedback session.
I'm very much willing to do that.
All right, but yeah, so we started that, and that still exists, and we're slowly but surely building that proposition. In addition to that, my main thrust is that I work as a consultant. We have Marshall and Brown, so we have a small team at Marshall and Brown. But the idea is that we want to grow it and scale it and make it something into a meaningful legacy brand. That's the objective. That's the purpose. You know.
Okay. So Marshall and Brown, the name is yourselves and your wife's name, since you said you were paying homage to your heritage.
Yeah, so Marshall is my mother-in-law and Brown is my mother. It's named after two matriarchs.
Ah, okay, okay. So yeah, and it's very catchy. It's the name itself to me gives a elevated kind of branding.
Yeah, Marshall and Brown. It's like almost sounds like Moulton and Brown, right?
Yes,
The
yeah.
yes, but yeah, Marshall and Brown. We wanted to pay. There were two great matriarchs, and so again, it's about the purpose of. Yeah, my mum was a great cook. Eugenia Marshall was a great cook. That whole thing about Caribbean cooking, but two wonderful matriarchs coming together, right? Marshall and Brown producing something which is, and of course from a Caribbean heritage, but then bringing it, to from a British contemporary perspective. So you have it's that innovation, that coming together of recognizing our history, paying homage to our culture, but bringing it to a wider community of people.
Let's pause for a moment to hear from our sponsors. You've built a name for yourself through hard work and dedication, but does managing the business side feel like a distraction from your true passion? Are you dealing with unmanaged finances? CME Accounting LLC is here to help. We specialize in organizing your financial records, allowing you to focus on what you do best. With organized books, you'll have more time for what inspires you. Whether that's expanding your influence, building relationships, or simply enjoying life. Don't let unmanaged finances hold you back. Reach out to CME Accounting LLC today and let us help you thrive. Visit our website www.cmeaccountingllc.com or email us at admin@cmeaccountingllc.com. All right, let's jump back into our conversation.
Okay, that sounds really great. Just hearing the influence of how you came up with the name and then the whole legacy behind it. So it means that you found your why in a way, not just solving a problem, but ensuring that there's a legacy from both of your families that could be carried on in future and bringing a bit of the Caribbean back so when people go out, they can sample the Caribbean at home.
Yeah. But also, you talk about the gap in the market and the premiumization of the name. We've specifically tried to position the brand because often they see Caribbean brands. You go down the world food aisles in the supermarkets, right? And it tends to be a lower value proposition. Get a sauce for 99p and that's kind of. But we said no, actually no. Why are we positioning brands just at that level? It can be more premium, and they can be more premium. So premium in terms of how they taste, premium of how they look, and the quality of the product which is produced. So again, so we've positioned it in a way that it's not a 99p bottle of sauce. It's not that. So we said deliberately, there's a gap. We felt there was a gap in the market as an entrepreneur. There's a gap, and we can fill that gap for a variety of different reasons. Consumers want to taste things which are different. It doesn't have to just sit in the world food aisles. It can sit on a regular shelf in a regular aisle, right? So
Yes, because it's a regular product. So I love that you shared that perspective on Caribbean food and our products. And that is so true in that we sell ourselves short in thinking I have to make it as cheap as possible for it to sell. But once it's positioned properly in the market, it's packaged, and you're selling quality, people will pay no matter how much it costs for quality.
no, I agree with that. I mean, don't take me wrong when I say this. It's not easy, right? But
Yes,
I
of course not.
But what I say that when the feedback that we get from consumers who taste it, the product, and who are repeat customers, who love not only how it's packaged, how it looks, and how it tastes, that's the testimony. So it's about how do we now scale that and getting access to that opportunity that will enable us to scale it into one retailer to another retailer and so forth. So that's the journey. That's the journey we're on.
So that's a good journey, and we wish you the very best. But I wanted to delve in a little more because as you spoke, A question came to mind. You have the idea, you developed this business, but how did you find your first client for Marshall and Brown, though?
So what I did, I went to when I started to build. So part of being thinking about and delivering on strategy for business, I still occasionally teach at university as a visiting lecturer, right? And you think about your strategy in advance. So preparation and planning are key, not just to go into something without actually trying to understand the market. So what I did, I went to a lot of trade shows. I went to a lot of trade shows, food trade shows, food events where buyers or retailers, suppliers, manufacturers, people like me would want to go and engage with retailers such as independent stores to wholesalers. So I used to go and attend these various trade shows like the IFE or Specialty Fine Food in Kensington and Olympia. And I then would walk around, spend 2 days walking around, talking to standholders, talking to this, researching, da, da, da. And then when I launched, I went and had a stand at this particular place, at these, and then this is where we discovered. So you need to find your sales pipeline, right? Where are my customers? So you go to where your customers potentially are going to be. I researched who the wholesalers were. I wrote to them. You could either go to the retailers directly yourself, or you can go to a wholesaler, a third party who could buy your product and they would sell it on your behalf. But you have to think about that because you have to then think about what margins are you going to achieve, right?
Yes, because it starts to infringe on how much you will be able to make it inflates the price as
Correct.
well.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So it's exactly that. So that's how it started. So we started to go out directly, and that's how we started to acquire our first customers. But we partnered with some wholesalers, and we got our products listed with them, and that started to push our products out. Then we started to reach out. We bought some databases, and we started to do email marketing campaigns and stuff and we still do that today. So it hasn't changed. We still try to do the basics as best as we can because you need to build that pipeline certainly with the independence until you get that bigger break. You need to build up a broader base, and we do events. We're at events and we are selling at events. We're doing rudimentary things but practical things to generate sales. So yeah, so that's what we do.
Yeah, so this is a lot of insights in you. You're sharing a lot of really good insights for persons in business. I mean, the approach of going to various trade shows and just experiencing it beforehand. So that way you're able to know where might be best and who might be the best client or partner to get involved with. So that's an incredible perspective to share and insight to guide other business decisions.
Yeah, but also do your research. You don't, whether that's just sitting behind your laptop and doing your research. Well, who are the wholesalers will take this type of product? Go and not stalking them, but go into LinkedIn. This person's on LinkedIn. Okay, can I connect with this person? Okay, and we now you start to build relationships with a variety of different people. Sending emails out, as I said, you don't always get great responses. Sometimes they don't even respond. But it's just a journey, right? You just got to keep knocking on doors
Yeah, keep going.
because you're going to get more no's than you're going to get yeses for sure. But it's the yeses. I'm not interested in the no's. Let's see how we can keep knocking to get to the yeses. So that's it.
Yeah, that's really good. And as we say about the no, so the no could be next opportunity.
Yeah. So yeah, the quicker I get through the no's, I'm finding someone who's going to get to the yes. That's how I've got to
Yes,
look at it,
that's true.
right?
That's right. Okay, so thanks for sharing that. In developing the business and moving it from one stage to the next, you alluded to it, it's not always been easy. And it will continue to be a challenge on and off. What would you say has been the biggest leap you've taken so far since starting out these business ventures?
Well, I think the biggest leap is always starting, and I think you've got to. I'm a firm believer in trying to plan as much as you can and doing a lot of research as much as you can. But then you've got to take the leap of faith of starting it, and sometimes, and I still do it. Sometimes you underestimate what it's going to take. You underestimate what investment levels are necessary, or you take on an order that actually you didn't, that was slightly bigger than you anticipated. You've got to think about your supply chain. So there's so many variables that sometimes can impact you in that delivery, whether that's thinking about consultancy, and you take on a bigger piece of work, whether that's the Marshall and Brown. And as you know, Angela, I run a UK Black Business Entrepreneur Conference, but I do that.
Yes.
That's more about us delivering something for our community, right? About accessing opportunities. But even doing that is about why. Some people have said to me, "Why do you do that? Why do you take on all of that stuff?" Right? It's hard work. You don't really get paid for that. You're doing it because you want to. If you want, again, it's purpose driven, right? What are you doing it for? And you got to believe in. You got to believe in your ideals. You got to believe in the purpose of what you're trying to do, right? Ultimately. So
Yes.
I'm not sure if that answers your question, Angela, in that context.
Yes, it does. So it means that in terms of struggle, you believe the biggest struggle was just getting started.
It's getting started and mindset, sticking with it sometimes when Angela, listen, sometimes you're waking up at 2 o'clock and you say, "Whoa, this is tough." you know, and you think, "Ooh, what am I going to do here?" Or this challenge has happened, and you think, and that takes energy and time and resources and stress. Sometimes you think, "Wow, what do I need to do here?" But it's saying, there's a solution to it somewhere. It's just about how do I find it, and then thinking, just believing in the concept of what you're trying to do, right? And say, okay, all right, it's tough right now, but everything's only for a moment. I think things are just temporary. It's just how quickly could you get through to the other side is how I try to look at it, because it's always a temporary process. That something is going to be impactful for now. It might take a week, it could take a month or 6 months. You don't know, but how quickly can I get through this, and how can I be creative in working through a solution to this challenge?
So thinking back on all of that, considering you're forward thinking of, okay, there's a solution. Has there ever been a time that you just wanted to give up and
Oh yes.
didn't think it wasn't with it?
Oh, that happens all the time, even now. you're thinking, oh. I mean, look, a good example, the conference, we put the conference together every year. It's a group of people, a team, an amazing group of a team of people come together voluntarily to support the goals of trying to support Black businesses in the UK. But in order to deliver that, we often need partners to come and support us, the work we do, because we invite speakers and they all have to be, and it's tough finding partners or sponsors. I mean, you're thinking, wow, it's a great purpose. Why don't people want to buy into this concept, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Yes, yes. But oftentimes they don't have the same vision that you have or that foresight.
So sometimes you think, oh, is it all, but yeah, but you've got to say, okay, look, you find a way. You just got to find a way to make the thing happen. And you keep going, and that's what you do. And you keep, like I said, I keep talking about knocking on doors. I knock on doors all the time in different ways, different environments, different places. Oh, did you know we're doing this work? Oh, is that something of interest to you? Can I? This is the benefits, So you keep going. You just keep fighting the fight, right, in a positive way, because as I said, we do it for a reason. We know the challenges are there, but also there are opportunities. But we need to create the opportunities for ourselves.
Yes, and find a way to capitalize on them.
And that's the thing, and that's what we try to do. So listen, you just have to keep going, and it is difficult. Angela, believe me. Sometimes you think, oh, is it all worth it? But yeah, but you've got to keep doing what you need to do, and to deliver the best outcomes. You think what are going to serve us as a community to give us access to those opportunities that we can grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Brilliant for sharing that. And as we talk about community and finding the why, a lot of times we do it for family, not just the external community. Because if as an individual we're not good, our families are not good, then the wider community cannot be good. You're doing so many things. I know you just came back from a bit of travel. You've written the race paradox, which I would have loved for us to talk about, and a little bit more about the business forum. How do you manage the family, keeping the family together? I mean, your wife is in business as well. So when do you switch off? How do you connect? How do you separate? Do you even separate that?
No, she's not. She's not in business anymore. She's settled down to a nice environment where she works for local government, and she's been doing that now maybe 8 to 10 years now. I think I can't remember the exact
So
term.
how do you balance it with her in the professional life and your business life?
So we try and stay grounded, but we make sure we take breaks. Like a couple of weekends ago, we were in France for the weekend, so we make sure we take holidays to spend time, proper times, that we're intentional.
Yes, I'm not distracted.
Oh, she hates it if I ever. Oh, you're not carrying your laptop, are you? No. Well, I'll just have it here, just in case, But yeah, we try to keep it. We try to keep it grounded, and spend time. That's the key thing. And but the good thing is understanding that we have purpose, and she supports that, and I think that's really important. Which I'm really appreciative of. It's on record. I'm appreciative of.
Okay, good. So I want you to share, with persons who may be contemplating entrepreneurship, whether it be a creative journey or it may be a brick and mortar business. What are some considerations? We can probably enumerate it, maybe three considerations or things to consider when commencing an entrepreneurial journey.
Okay. I think first and foremost, do the research. There's an old saying, proper planning and preparation prevents poor performance. So do your research, proper planning and preparation, number one. Two, it's going to be harder than you initially thought. Plan to have more resources than you think that you need. What often happens is we are often undercapitalized, which then makes your ability to grow difficult. So one, proper planning preparation prevents poor performance. Two, it's sometimes going to be harder than we think. It's not an instant success is not an overnight journey, right? It takes time to grow. And three, remember that often, you need additional resources, and understanding the capitalization of your business is critical. Just to give you three things, but I would go to four. Build your network, build your social capital. Your social capital for me is understanding that it gives you access to people, resources, or opportunities that if you did not have that social capital, you would not have access to those people or individuals. So if by knowing your network or growing your network, I should say, there might be individuals who can invite or open up doors for you that you wouldn't ordinarily get access to, which I talk about knocking on doors. You've got to knock on a lot of doors to try and get yeses, right? But sometimes having a good network can open up those same doors a lot quicker for you. So try to think about the rooms that you are in. It's not the room that you're comfortable with all the time. Because often you'll have friends and family members who say, oh, why don't you do this for your business? And you should be doing that. They've never ever run a business often. And it's not that you can't value their opinions or ideas, but actually put yourself in rooms where people who've got experience of running businesses or who give you access to different markets or people or thinking, or who can lever and open up doors for you and build those relationships. Because I think that is critical as well. So I would definitely say build your network, build your social capital.
Okay, so those are four really critical points, I would say. One of them particularly stands out for me, which is the network. One of my former bosses would always say it's good to build relationships, and that comes back to the network because you never know when possibly you can use those relationships to open a door, as you rightly said, make a connection, support a project, create a partner. So those were really good, I must say.
And of course, there's one other thing. Angela, I've got to say. They should attend the UK Black Business Entrepreneur Conference on the
Yes,
8th of July
happening.
2026.
That's
That's what,
right.
to build those networks.
Okay. All right, great. So thanks for that insight, Dr. Brown. We could have continued, I guess, for another hour, but we will close here today. What I would like for you to do is to tell our audience how they can reach out to you to find out more about Aspire, about Marshall and Brown, or about the UK Black Business Conference, Entrepreneurs Conference.
So thank you, Angela. So thank you. So the UK Black Business Entrepreneur Conference is hosted on the 8th of July 2026 at the NatWest Conference Centre. You can access information on our website, which is www.thebbec.com, which is www.thebbec.com. Secondly, as far as Aspire Consultancy is concerned, you can go to our website, which is aspire-consultancy.com. And finally, Marshall and Brown, go to the website, order your rum cakes, order your jerkhouse sauces. It's marshallandbrown.co.uk.
Okay, and that's the same way to connect with you, I would assume.
Yeah, you can. There's contact pages, there's contact forms, and of course I'm on LinkedIn as well. So Dr. Carlton Brown on LinkedIn.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Brown, for sharing with us. You provided us with a lot of insight, a lot of information that we can use to guide whether it be our professional or entrepreneurial journey, experiences of your Caribbean heritage, the influence we're really happy about. One thing that stands out for me is, is about setting that premium nature for whatever it is that we would like to offer. So thank you for sharing those insights. And we look forward to connecting with you again in the future because I'm sure there's a lot more to discuss. Diversity, equity, and inclusion we did not touch on. So hopefully in the future we'll have an opportunity to do that.
I'd love to come back and speak to you about the Race Paradox book when it comes out in
Yes,
February
that's
next year.
right.
So thank you so much, Angela. I really appreciated your time and I really enjoyed our conversation. So thank you so much.
Okay. All right, great. Listeners, this has been Begin, Build, Blossom Your Business Journey. We encourage you to like, subscribe, and share our episodes. It's a space for real conversations and insights and help us grow the community. Engage with us, send us feedback. Until next time, I'm Angela Sindenis. Bye for now.
A quick note before we wrap up. The insights and experiences shared by our guests are their own. We love creating space for real conversations about business and growth, and everyone's journey is unique. Therefore, this podcast is for informational and inspirational purposes only. It is not meant to replace legal, financial, or other professional advice. So, we encourage you to take what's useful, do your own due diligence, and build what works best for you.
Thanks for listening to Begin, Build, Blossom Your Business Journey. We hope today's conversation gave you the insights and inspiration you need to move forward on your own path. Don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. Do you have feedback? We'd love to hear from you at podcast@cmeaccountingllc.com. Join us again next week for a new episode.